Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title, we're going to be talking about Love is Blind. I just got done watching it not long ago, so I thought I'd come on my YouTube channel and share my thoughts. I know I'm usually posting on a Wednesday, Wine Wednesday. If you've never checked it out, check it out. I think there's like 10 episodes out now. But I just randomly wanted to come on here and give my review. So if you do want to hear my thoughts and you want to just get into a conversation, because a lot happened even though it was only 2 episodes. Sit tight, grab a snack if you need one, a drink. Even though it's not Wine Wednesday, still feel free to grab yourself a glass of wine and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, I have notes on my phone, so I will be referring to my phone. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk about, like I said, episode 8 and 9. I think what will be easier is just to talk about each couple at a time. What's crazy to me, and I wrote it in my notes, there's only 2 couples. That's insane. But anyways, we're first going to speak about... Where we're going to start is at the start of episode 8, Uche. Okay? First of all, how he was talking to... is her name Mariam? I'm going to... If I got it wrong, I'll insert the correct name here. Trying to belittle her. Was not a fan of that at all. I hate seeing like men talk down to women. Like... his character is just, but he's not even that much of a factor, but I do have more notes. I was going to say I don't want to give him time of day, but I have more notes. When he was speaking with Milton, who I love, we'll get into him in a bit, and he's like, I don't want to ruin things with you and Lydia, goes on and proceeds to try and say everything under the sun to ruin things between them. We've got your number, Uche. We don't want it. Delete, block, done. Like, I really didn't like that. Really didn't like that. Also, I'm hearing that this is something I'm going to be mentioning a lot throughout this, right? How this show is edited is one way, and what we see is a completely different story, right? So apparently, Uche made a post. I haven't actually seen it. I'm going to find it and put it up on the screen, saying that the previous episode, when he sat down with Aaliyah, they did actually decide to date. They shared their first kiss. And obviously it was shown as if they're going to end things. How he managed to win Aaliyah around is wild to me. Anyway, but I love how Milton handled that whole situation. I love how Milton handles many situations. And he said, like, that's your perception and that's it. Like, good for you. I'm going to keep it stepping. And I was just thinking, like, Uche, just shush and leave them alone. Like, if he was at that point in a happy relationship, why are you here trying to stir up drama? Someone else like that, but we'll get onto that in a bit. And I love Milton's, like, the words that he left him with in that, you know, because obviously Uche's like, we're friends, I don't want this to ruin our friendship, and you're my boy and I care for you and I don't want Lydia to get in between us and all that. And Milton was just like, listen, I'll message you in the group chat, aka if you're in the group chat and there's a group conversation going on, I'm not going to ignore you, but there's no need for a friendship here. And I just love how Milton handled that whole situation, how he was there for Lydia, but still, like, I'm someone, the sort of people I like to date, I don't want someone that wants to stir up drama and cause, like, you know, cause a scene or anything like that, get, like, you know, beat your chest and, I'm a man, I need to protect and I'm gonna fight with you. No, I don't need all that. So I loved how Milton handled that whole situation, like 10 out of 10. Okay, so that was that. Now, let's talk about, as a whole, let's do Milton and Lydia, okay? So like I was saying, how Milton after that was uplifting Lydia, like, you don't need to pay him no mind. Like, it was just so, like, I loved seeing that. Like, that is what I would want to hear in a situation like that. He was there for her in an amazing way. We'll get on to the perception of that whole situation when they sit down for dinner, episode 9. But in that moment, amazing. I have in my notes, I think I've fallen for Milton. I genuinely do. Like, in the start, I was like, but as time has gone on, like, I've grown to love him as a character. I do love a nerd anyway. But just how he handles situations in general and just seeing him on the show, obsessed with Milton. And then I guess what else we see in this episode is Lydia meeting Milton's family. Wow. They were a tough family. Oh my God. I don't know how I would deal with it. I feel like how Lydia was could go one or two ways, right? One, a family may respect it and be like, do you know what? You're being 100% yourself. It doesn't feel like you're putting on a show. Because she didn't really change up who she was. I was like, yo, Lydia, like, stop swearing in front of them and all of it. Like, some of the language she was using, I was a bit like, ugh. But some people may be like, do you know what? You're giving us the real you. We get to see you. But they were hard to read. And again, with the edit, I don't know. It may not have been as bad as what they made it out to be. But that was tense. But yeah, I feel like the family was, what's the best way to describe them? I feel like they were cold and warm at the same time. It's really weird. I loved how her mum, like, you know, was bigging her up like a woman in STEM. Loved that. They were skeptical. And whenever I see families like that on these dating shows, as much as a viewer of the dating show, you know, you're rooting for love and you want it to work. And when people come in and they're skeptical and you're like, you're ruining it, I take myself into the real world and think, okay, if my younger brother came and said, I just met this girl, she is 7 years older than me, we're getting married and she's effing and blinded, I'm going to be like, you sure? So I do get where they're coming from to an extent. And yeah, I see both sides. Like when they were saying, obviously, it feels like you're just saying the right thing. You're just trying to, you know, give the right answers and it feels rehearsed. As a family, that is something maybe I would pick up on and be like, are you showing me the real you, right? But then as the person going to meet the family, yeah, I want to impress you. I'm going to say what sounds good. Like, this is the interview of all interviews, right? And when you go in an interview, you're trying to put your best foot forward and say the right thing. I feel like they did, at some point, there was a comparison of interviews in the show, but yeah. So that's how the meeting went. What are your thoughts, guys, though? I would like to know what you think of Lydia, because my thoughts on Lydia have changed. Uche has played a big part, because the more he's trying to push her and portray her as a crazy person, I'm like, I don't know if I believe you all the way. Like, why was she because yeah, she probably was stalking these people's Instagrams, right? Why was she doing that? Were these the people you were cheating with? And was she suspicious? And that's why she was watching their stories? Like, the full story is not being told there from Uche. So that's what's making me step back and think, maybe she's not as bad. I mean, when she was telling Leah way too much, I was like, okay, Lydia doing way too much. But anyway, we digress. So that was their overall in episode 8. Episode 9 is when, you know, they're wedding dress shopping. And that's when it really sunk in, like, wow. I was like, right, like, literally only 2 couples left. Normally, there's a lot more couples, like 4 or 5 maybe. I was like, 2 couples. And apparently this season was filmed before the season we got before this. And they were like, yeah, let's wait before we put out Houston. Let's do another one first before we put out Houston. Makes sense. So yeah, Lydia tries on her dress. The first dress she puts on, obviously she's emotional. I feel like no matter what dress she would have put on, she would have cried. Like her. But she did look beautiful, I will say. The top half, loved it, as she said. And the second dress she chose, I love the style of it. She did look beautiful, I must say. So then we see Milton and his sister meet up for like lunch or or drinks or coffee or whatever. And I did like how he was standing his ground with his sister and taking up for Lydia. Like, that is a sign of a good husband, right? You fight those battles behind the scenes, so it's something your wife doesn't need to worry about. Because there were moments I was a bit worried, like, oh my god, could Lydia and Milton's sister actually like butt heads and clash? Because they're both strong personalities. So I was like, but it was good. Milton was, you know, putting his foot down. But like I said, I saw where the sister is coming from. I think she just cares for her brother. and is asking valid questions to make sure, like, are you sure you're ready for this? And I think that was her main concern, as opposed to not being a fan of Lydia, if that makes sense. So, oh dear. And then we have Lydia and Milton's final date. Now, it started and it was so cute, and I was like, I was like, this is a nice way to just tie them all together. They're there with all their rocks that they love, and geology rocks, yeah. But then it takes a turn, okay? And I will say this, not just because, I'm Milton's #1 fan, but I do really love the way in which he communicates. I think he communicates really well and gets his point across great. I always think it's a shame when someone is trying to express how they feel and they're being shut down or being made to feel bad for feeling that way, or the other person then turns it into, okay, now I'm a victim of what you're saying, because then they can't express how they feel because they're going to be penalized for it, it would seem. So that's what I was seeing with Lydia and Milton when he was expressing, I wasn't a fan of how you handled that situation with Uche. It would have been great if you could have, kept a level head. And I get why it's frustrating for Lydia, especially if she had been with Uche for a while and he was someone that always gaslit her. But as someone who doesn't like confrontation or doesn't want things to get heat, he's like, listen, I know where I stand. I don't need to F and blind and call this person all of that. I'll just let them have their beat and walk away, which I appreciate, and is how I like to operate as well, so I get it. But I could also, like I said, I could see Lydia's frustrations, and I could see, unfortunately, sometimes the wording Milton was choosing wasn't the best, like, you're too emotional. And that got Lydia, and I get it, and that's why I think they could definitely benefit from couples therapy or counseling, so they have a mediator to help get across what it is that they're trying to say, so it's not misconstrued and the actual what they mean they hear as opposed to what they feel, if that makes sense. Like, what Milton was saying was hitting Lydia in a different way, and that wasn't his intention at all, and vice versa. What I wasn't a fan of so much, and this is my final point on them, what I will say is Lydia saying, what did she say? I'm sorry you don't, she basically was like, I'm sorry you don't like it, but that's just me. Which means there's gonna be no compromise. And they were talking about, compromise. That's a relationship, that's a marriage, you're gonna have to compromise. And it didn't seem like she was leaving any room for compromise, whereas when she was bringing up her gripes with Milton, you leave stuff around, and he's like, okay, I'm doing my best, but I'm gonna strive for even better and do better, so be more tidy and stuff like that. He's willing to take that on board, and where he's not a confrontational person and would rather, if that isn't the case of what's going on, she doesn't want to hear it. So that's definitely something they're going to need to work on if this is going to work. We'll see what happens at the altar. If they get married, predictions. Do I think they will both say yes? I actually do, but we'll see. So that's Lydia and Milton. Now Izzy and Stacey. So we see Izzy having a conversation with Chris, and he's, saying to him, me and you, we're very similar, we're just good people, and da-da-da. And in my head, I'm thinking, Izzy, no, don't. You are no Chris, okay? Because Chris would never speak to a woman the way in which you spoke to Johnny, which I really didn't like. There's a lot that Johnny did I don't agree with, and she was in the wrong with many things and how she handled certain situations. That doesn't excuse how Izzy was treating her and trying to embarrass her, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so then obviously Johnny comes over while Stacey and Chris are talking, and yeah, she was leaving out truths and creating a different narrative to what had happened. I do get that, and when Chris watches back the show, he may be in for a shock. But I don't think that excuses how they were talking to her. It made me very uncomfortable to see, actually. And I also get Stacey's frustration hearing that, you know, she was, as she said, this was her opinion, she was trying to be nice with Johnny and, you know, felt bad for her and all of this. And then to hear how Johnny was kind of talking a bit crazy about Stacey, fair. And Stacey hearing what Johnny had been saying about her, I get why you're like, she's not my kind of person, want nothing to do with her. That's fine. I'm all for that. But there's no need to like pile up on someone. I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. Okay. So they get back to their apartment. This is Izzy and Stacey. And Izzy says he was turned on when he saw Stacey laying into Johnny. That's a red flag to me. Like, as my man, my fiance, my husband, that shouldn't be something you want to see me doing. Like, as I said, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't believe in ganging up on someone. And if that's something you like, that's a red flag to me. And throughout this episode, like, just seeing Izzy, he was giving me, like, Stacey is the popular girl and he's trying to impress her with the way he talks about Johnny. Like, you know, the person that is talking down about someone just to try and get someone else's approval. That's what it was giving me, and it's very uncomfortable to watch. And then what happened? I think Stacey, they get into an argument and a disagreement, I guess, about Izzy not doing enough. I can't remember what the argument was about. What was it? But yeah, this is the second time Stacey brings up, like, if the only time you can say you truly appreciate me is seeing that I'm not someone else, that's not what I want. I want to see your appreciation when I come home. Do something for me. When was the last time you did this? Or I like that, and da-da-da-da. And one thing I've seen about Izzy is he can't take criticism. Did I say that right? Criticism. He can't take criticism. He doesn't like have accountability, and his go-to is to just play the victim. And I was like, wow. Like, seeing that whole dynamic and that whole conversation, he goes in the room and cries. Like, there was nothing wrong with a man crying. A man in touch with emotions, amazing. But man or woman, I'm not a fan of the minute you're told something about yourself you don't want to hear, you're the victim, you cry, you don't want to hear it, conversation done. That's not healthy. And I have here in my notes that the next day, you know, Izzy and Stacey work things out. I think he shows up at her work, brings her flowers, you know, he's going to cook for her, gives her coupons, everything, you know, she was asking for, to be fair. But in my heart of hearts, I have in my notes, I'm seeing that, I'm like, this isn't going to be their last argument, especially like this. That whole argument and that dynamic, I don't see that going away anytime soon, so they're going to have a lot of rocky patches throughout. We'll get to what happens at the end. But yeah, then we meet Izzy's mum. I loved Izzy's mum though. What did I write here? I wrote in my notes, Izzy's mum is so sweet and I want to give her the world. Like, she seems like such a lovely woman, and I love how the love she has for her son is amazing. You can see their bond. It is really nice to see. So she comes round and then she meets Stacey. And Stacey again, do you know what? I think seeing Stacey and Lydia as well, like how they don't necessarily really change their character, and like, this is me, and they're confidently themselves around the family. That side of both of them was quite admirable to see, because I think I have a habit of maybe pandering a bit to who I'm around, like dimming a bit and just being good and respectful and quiet, you know, around parents and stuff like that. So I find it admirable when I see people just being their true authentic self no matter who they're around. Sometimes it can get a bit problematic, but it's an admirable characteristic nonetheless. I do think though, when we meet Izzy's mum, I think her and Lydia would get on like a house on fire. And she's asking some questions like, you know, how is this gonna work? She wants to know, like, as any parent would. And I think the way in which it was edited, this is what I'm saying, that I think they hyped it up to make it seem like there was more tension than what it was. Because you notice there's one moment, you know, Lydia's got her feet on the sofa. By the way, Izzy had his shoes all on the sofa. I was like, get your shoes off. Anyway, So Stacey had her feet on the sofa, and then in the middle she's in her sandals down, and then at the end her feet are up again. So that conversation has been chopped up a bit to make it more intense than what it was. But overall it seems like she gets on really well. Izzy's mum takes well to Stacey, and it was a nice meeting in general. So yeah, that was the general gist of episode 8. So then episode 9 with Izzy and Stacey. So Stacey, they go wedding dress shopping. She finds her dress. She looked good in the dress. It was nice. I thought it was going to be more crazy with what she had said. But yeah, great dress, beautiful gowns. So yeah, Izzy takes her on a date and says, I heard the family say she likes private jets and that's the lifestyle. So this is the date, and it wasn't a private jet though, Izzy. It was it was like a helicopter. I was like, don't get me wrong, helicopter ride, amazing. And the dinner in it's not really an airport, is it? Private airport? I don't know what you'd call it. It was cute. It was nice. She seemed to enjoy the helicopter ride, but that is not a private jet, Izzy. Yeah. But no, it was really nice. And then they have their last dance and everything. And I'm like, oh, cute. Maybe there won't be any issues like I thought. And then we see them in the room, packing before the wedding. And the second we see them, I'm like, wow, they had an argument last night or a disagreement or something. You can see, the awkward tension, it just seemed for it. You can see it from the get-go, right? And then obviously we hear about, Izzy hadn't been forthcoming with, I guess, debt issues. And I see why this is alarming to Stacey, because she's given him multiple chances to bring it up. She said she was speaking about finances back in the pods, which I don't think we saw. We did see obviously the conversation they had when she came to his house, but yeah, and he just withheld that information. And then they were at a gas station, she said, and she asked him point blank period, she was like, how comes you don't have a credit card? And he brushed it off. So he just said, oh, I got rid of them at college or something, right? That was his excuse. And he's saying he didn't lie, and she's saying, you lied to me again. Right there in our face, an example. Izzy cannot take accountability. He's deflecting and then making himself a bit of the victim a bit. And he's like, I didn't try and hide it. You did. You definitely did. And him saying, I wanted us to be able to sit down and talk about it's not a conversation I just want to have out. And fair, okay? I'm not going to force people to have conversations. That could be quite hard for him to speak about, because obviously Stacey is someone who's doing really well for herself. I get how it can feel intimidating for him. I get it. But the minute that happened, when you get home, create that environment, sit down and talk about it. Don't wait. And he was like, oh, but I was honest. You wait till the last minute right before the wedding to say it. She asked you before and you weren't honest. Izzy can't take accountability, and he falls back into, in my opinion, making himself out to be the victim. And then again, another bit of a red flag for me. So Izzy says, I'm going to read it word for word. It says, I fell in love with you because you fought for me. And I have an issue with people expressing why they love someone but making it about themselves. I love you because you do this for me, or you did it. What about them do you love? That is not centered around yourself. This is my issue with Izzy. I feel like I could be wrong, and it could be the way it's edited, but from what I see, he is the main character, main priority. This is his story, and everybody else is just along for the ride, which is why I think he can't take accountability, which is why I feel like sometimes he makes himself the victim, which is why, and maybe he just needs to do some more work on himself, and he genuinely can't see it. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Do I think Izzy and Stacey are both going to say yes at the altar? I think, by the way, both couples would benefit from couples therapy. I feel like if they truly want this show to work, that should be an element they put into the show, because there's moments where I see Stacey and she just has to. It's so crazy because my opinion on Stacey, I obviously wasn't doing recaps like the previous 7 episodes, but I've grown to actually really like her, except for certain situations and how she handles them, Johnny. But she will be the one to back down, and you know, even if she's not necessarily the one who's in the wrong, she just gets over it and they're good type thing. I can see that becoming an issue later down the line, whereas if they sat down, went through couples therapy, who knows, maybe it is something they're doing, they could definitely benefit from it a lot, and Izzy actually hears Stacey more as opposed to I feel like he centers a lot of things around him. Those are my thoughts. So yeah, do I think they'll both say yes at the altar? I think they might, but for now I think Stacey should say no. But if they can go through therapy, couples therapy, counseling, work through things, there is hope for them. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Would love to know what you guys think. Even if you think the complete opposite of me, would love even more to hear what you think. Like, comment below. Like, it's an interesting conversation. I love talking about shows like this. I love dating shows. Love the conversations it brings, which is why I was like, I need to just get this out here and just like speak about it on here with you guys. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I will probably, if you guys enjoyed this, I'll do, because I guess there's only one more episode. There's just the weddings left. And I'll speak more on that as well. But yeah, otherwise, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff I meant to ask you to do. Please do. And I'm just rambling now, and I don't really know how to end this. So I'm just gonna go.